So we're here at the premiere of Superman Red Sun. I know that you guys have been chomping at the bit to get this one out for a while. So what made the timing right now to take on this story?
You know, it's weird, and again, it's an unsexy answer, but Superman Red Sun has actually crossed my desk quite a few times. I think this is like the third time that it is, and so I don't really understand what happens, but for some reason this time it's stuck.
Excellent. And obviously, with pop culture these days, Elseworld has been a thing for DC for a long time, but we're seeing a lot of alt history takes in pop culture with TV shows and such. What do you think makes Elseworld stories, alt history stories, so fascinating for creators and for audiences?
Well, I think that, first of all, you can only do alt history stuff, or it only matters, right, if these characters matter to the people, right?
Sure.
Because you can only do it to people, to things, to IPs or characters that people know, and they assume things from, right? And so the whole, alternative history thing, right, is to flip it on its head and give you something that, no, Superman would not be like that, or but if he was like this, then what would you think? And you're just like, oh my God, what would happen? So I think it's always fun, just to sort of do that.
Sure. So you see things from a different perspective, essentially.
Yeah, and it's I think it makes it interesting too, because it's you really have to go what would that be like? Let's start thinking about it, and let's break it down, and then and then you sort of start going down the paths of what would happen, what would they do, kind of a thing. And sometimes, arguably, it might be more interesting, So
aside from the Elseworld take, do you think there's anything else that's really going to make this animated story stand out from the other DC animated films that have been released so far?
I feel like a lot of stories, and this is why they say writing is so important, right? Is so much of it is sort of based on its concept, right? I remember when I was taking film studies courses when I was in college. This is just somebody's theory, but my teacher, he was saying basically of the things that he read, he agreed with, right? Is as a director, you can only increase or decrease a story by roughly 30%.
Okay.
Which basically means you can't kill a great script, but you can't save a garbage script, basically.
Right, yeah.
Right? So I think a lot of it again is sure, we can make it a little bit better, or we would make it worse. Hopefully we make it better. But I think the strength of concept, strength of stories. I think those are things that are hard to influence.
Well, speaking of stories, one question I'd love to wrap up with is, for Fanbase Press, it's our 10th anniversary. We're taking on an initiative called Stories Matter. We'll really examine how stories have a deep connection to humanity, how they teach us about ourselves, the world.
Yeah.
This clearly has a lot of entertainment value, a lot of comic book elements, but from a perspective of what we can learn from it as viewers, or maybe learn about others or the world, what are your thoughts on it?
It's really interesting because I feel like most of my movies are I delve into psychology of character and motivation more than the action and fighting. Those are important things,
sure.
But I'm more interested in characters and sort of their development and sort of what they're going through and how they sort of either navigate through things and where do they end up, where do they start, where do they end up,
right.
Type of thing, right? And so I think in most of them, I've been lucky enough in most of the movies that I've worked with. I don't know. I've been able to sort of, some obviously more than others, but I feel like there's something that's there that's worthwhile as characters and what you learn. And I think in this one too, outside of sort of the plot and all that kind of stuff, right? I think it is about Superman, who is an idealistic in the beginning when he's young, right? He is
right.
I have to give my powers to the country, to the people, right? He goes through an ideology. He realizes what it takes, and I sometimes refer to it as I didn't create the word, obviously, but it's the phrase, the burden of the crown, right?
Okay.
It's which is basically you have to sacrifice some of your people sometimes in order to sort of for the livelihood of your
greater good.
Yeah, so you have to make these really tough choices sometimes, right? And so Stalin sort of warns him of that, right? And he's just no, you can do it a different way, and I'm going to do it, And so he tries to do it, but he realizes that he can't, And so I think it's him. But again, I think there's a journey for him, ideologically, of kind of being young, idealistic, and in the end, kind of having to come to terms with it's difficult to rule all these people.
Sure,
There's going to be people like Batman that are going to basically oppose you, and then what are you going to do when he's destroying the city and blowing up people?
Yeah.
Sure, ideally you don't want to kill anybody, but what are you going to do?
Right.
When this guy's forcing your hand into something. So again, the burden of the crown type thing is
Well, thank you so much, Sam. We're really looking forward to the movie. Thank you so much for talking
It's
with
always
us.
great talking to you.
Always good talking to you, too.